Hello and welcome to the White Collar Fitness Radio, the ultimate podcast for professionals striving to achieve optimal performance in today's fast-paced age. I'm your host, Bruno Dalladoni, online body transformation specialist and founder of the Health Coach Fitness. I'm here to help you optimize your health and fitness, even if you're short on time. What's happening, everybody? Today we're discussing myths and facts about intermittent fasting. What do we need to know? So first things first, how would you classify intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is basically just a structured period of fasting or non-feeding, if you like. And there are obviously different types of protocols we can think about. Things like alternate day fasting or windowed eating, things like the 16-hour daily fast or a warrior diet, which is still a windowed fast, but instead of 16 hours fasting, it's 20 hours fasting, 4 hours eating window. Or one that tends to be quite popular as well is the 5-2 diet. So those are different protocols that are out there that people use. Now, the real question is it the one magic pill that's going to solve all your problems? And you know what I'm going to say? Always and forever, no, because there are no magic pills. But does it have some benefits? Absolutely. So first, let's start with some myths, and then we'll look at the actual benefits. So, myths of intermittent fasting. Your body will go into starvation mode. Wrong go. There is no such thing. So, there is really no weight loss difference whether you eat normally or whether you don't have multiple meals but just stuff your face once a day. Meal frequency doesn't seem to play any part at all into weight loss. Next myth. Eating little and often will boost your metabolism. This obviously is almost the reverse of the previous myth. And again, no. So there's some research done by Cameron and his team back in 2010, and that compared 3 meals a day versus 6 meals a day. And he found that the higher meal frequency didn't actually promote any more weight loss than the fewer meal frequencies. Again, does eating little and often add to your fat burning machine? No, doesn't seem that way. Now, the one that always gets me. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Is it though? Is it? Really? Let's just take a second and think about that. Why would it be? Let's start with that. Why would it be? And if you don't have breakfast, what happens? That's what I thought. Nothing. No, it's just not the case. Also, interesting to think about the original research done on breakfast being, the most important meal of the day was originally funded by Kellogg's, and the research I saw, I don't know, probably isn't the only one, but the one I did see was funded by Kellogg's, and the research setup was that people, one group of people had breakfast and the other group of people didn't have breakfast. And then at lunch, they got told to eat basically just almost all you can eat buffet. And what they found is that the people that didn't have breakfast ate more at lunch, obviously. But they still, from a calorie point of view, they still had eaten less than the people that had breakfast and lunch. It's just one of those. Breakfast, cool if you like it. Don't worry if you don't. It's not a big a deal. Cool. Those are the real big myths that surround sort of intermittent fasting. As far as I know, the starvation mode, the metabolism, and then that obviously like you're skipping breakfast, and breakfast is the holy grail for life. And none of those seem to actually have any evidence to support them. And in fact, there are evidence to support the opposite, really. But moving on from myths, what are some of the actual benefits? Because there are some. And the first one that we can look at is some intermittent fasting protocols might be beneficial for lean muscle retention. Now, this is really interesting as far as I'm concerned, because and I will just caveat this, not if you are first starting your sort of gen pop person, just going by your day and you just want to lose a few pounds. That's fine. But this is really interesting if you're already lean, if you're already in really good shape, trying to get leaner. There might be some benefits, let's say, to doing this. Now, the idea of this is that it's intermittent calorie restrictions. Yes, intermittent fasting, but potentially on, say, a 5-2 type protocol or an alternate day type protocol, although that might be a little bit more dubious. But the idea being that having those days where you are eating a maintenance could potentially help you retain a bit more tissue because you're not in a deficit for as long, per se. There was some research done by Varady, I'm probably butchering that name, back in 2011. Now, I will say I didn't fully read the research, so I can't give you the ins and outs of it precisely, but it's just something to bear in mind, and it's something that's quite interesting to think about. The other sort of potential benefit from intermittent fasting that does actually come into play is obviously the idea that when you're dieting for a prolonged period of time, inevitably you feel hungry, because why wouldn't you feel hungry? Your body doesn't know you're doing this to yourself on purpose. But intermittent fasting seems to have like this weird ability, and obviously you guys know me. When I say this, I don't mean for everyone. Everyone is different, right? So just hear me out. Intermittent fasting seems to have this weird ability to retrain your, let's say, your hunger signals. Like I say, not for everyone, but many people find that they, like I say, retrain that eating patterns. Whereas before, say, for example, before you were a breakfast eater, you needed to have breakfast as soon as you opened your eyes, they find that after a little while, they might not have to, and they're actually quite happy feeling a little bit of hunger. And then after a while, they find that they don't actually feel hungry. Like I say, works for some people, doesn't work for some people. But it is interesting because what intermittent fasting does in this scenario is highlight the sort of that undulating nature of hunger. It comes and then it goes. And because in our modern day living, we don't really feel hungry per se, not for any length of time, really. There's a coffee shop or a sandwich shop or Tesco or something in every street corner. So there's food available pretty much anywhere you go, and absolutely no more than a 5-minute walk from anywhere you are. It means that you're never really hungry for any length of time. And so as soon as people start feeling a little bit hungry, they just go and they just eat something. They just stop feeling hungry. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is that we've lost the ability to go through that little bit of discomfort for any length of time. And what intermittent fasting does, or can do, is highlight the fact that the hunger will come, but it will also pass. It will rise and then you'll go and you're fine. And having the ability to know that you're not constantly just going to starve yourself out is obviously massively beneficial from a dieting perspective, if you are in fact dieting. Now, whenever we're talking diet, whenever we're talking anything really that is a little bit more mainstream, you get a bunch of standard questions. Let's think of them as FAQs, frequently asked questions. And one that pops up for basically every single diet you'll ever hear about is, will I lose body fat? And the answer to every question you always have by now is, it depends. I know it's the least sexy answer and the one they'll always give you, but why does it depend? Like I said at the start, intermittent fasting is no unicorn poop. It's not a magic pill. You won't just magically dissolve your body fat. If you're trying to lose some body fat, always and forever, it comes down to being in a calorie deficit. Now, obviously, intermittent fasting can massively help with that because you're at the very least cutting out a meal for the day, or depending on what protocol you end up doing, it can be you're fasting an entire day. Like if you're doing alternate day fasts, you can eat one day, not eat the next, eat one day, not eat the next. So you can see how that would create a massive deficit without you necessarily having to think too hard about it. Having said that, if you're not in a deficit, you won't lose body fat. If you do an alternate day fast and you eat one day and you fast the next, or if when you're eating, you're smashing out 6 pizzas and 17 liters of full fat Coke, I'm sorry, you're just not getting anywhere. Something to bear in mind. Calorie deficit if you're trying to lose body fat. Now, I suppose questions that are a little bit more intermittent fasting specific, let's say. So what if you can't fast at the appropriate time? Really, it doesn't matter, is the long and short, because intermittent fasting, different from other diets, like, for example, keto, which would be, say, a low-carb diet, you don't go into ketosis if you're doing intermittent fasting. You don't go into some special state by doing intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting really is just a tool in your toolbox, and you can adjust that protocol to fit your lifestyle. And this is, in fact, really important. And it'll also be the answer. So let me just preempt the answer. It'll be the answer to your next question. You can use intermittent fasting in whichever way fits your lifestyle best, if you so choose to use intermittent fasting. But it's important to know that 1, you can adjust it, and 2, it can fit with your life, because what's the number one goal of anything we ever do relating to fitness, nutrition, anything like that? Adherence. If your adherence is off, as in you're not sticking to it for any length of time, then, well, you won't get anywhere with anything, right? Think about your work. If you rocked up to work one day when you fancied and then you didn't when you couldn't be bothered, you absolutely would not be getting that promotion over Betty in accounts. Which it's the same with this. You can fit whatever intermittent fasting protocol you so choose to do to fit your lifestyle for maximum adherence. And if you do that, it'll work for whatever goal you have. So as long as you set it up properly. But that's really the key, is making sure that you set it up in a way that you can continue for a long time. The next question that I've alluded to is, what if you get too hungry before your time to eat? And part of the answer is the same as the one before, which is adjust the protocol to fit your lifestyle. Now, the other thing that happens with what you do if you get too hungry before your time to quote unquote eat is obviously understanding that if you've never fasted before, then this is absolutely something to be expected, because you haven't fasted. Your body doesn't know what's going on. If you are fasting for the first time, like it's new to you, then just be prepared that you'll take a little bit of time, a few weeks, a few months, for some people only a few days. Again, it goes back to that. Everyone is different. Everybody adjusts and adapts at different rates. Give it a go. Expect to be a little bit hungry. Your body should, in theory, adapt. Now, if you've been doing this for a while, a few months, and you're still feeling really hungry, well, then tweak that protocol to make sure it fits with your lifestyle. Don't just stay hungry for the sake of staying hungry for any sort of prolonged period of time. And that's really as much as you need to, as deep as you need to think about it, is cool. I've been doing this for 8 months now, and for whatever reason, it gets to an hour before I'm meant to eat and I'm starved. Cool. Just adjust that eating window so you start a little bit before. Or maybe you stop a little bit earlier and you eat a little bit. Like, honestly, just adjust it to however it fits your lifestyle best. The one that is quite interesting, and like any of these things, doesn't necessarily have a straightforward answer, is whether you should change your training in terms of your training times to fit with your intermittent fasting or your feeding windows, let's say. And honestly, that depends. There you go. There's the answer. It depends. But it depends on you and how you feel. So some people feel really good training fasted. Some people really don't. As in, they'll feel sick, their performance is off, they can't lift as much, they can't run as fast, they just don't perform. And if that's the case, then obviously match your training to when you've eaten. But for some people, it honestly doesn't matter. And if that is the case, then do your thing. Like for me personally, I can train really well fasted if it's first thing in the morning. If I wake up and I train within 2 or 3 hours of me being awake, brilliant. That really works. If I wait any more than that, it's done. Usually I'm up at 4:30. If I'm training by no later than 8 a.m., we're golden. If I start getting to 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, I need to have something, because otherwise my energy levels massively dip. I'm tired. I don't want to train. If I train, even though I don't want to, how much I can lift is off. My just overall attitude towards my session is off. Just making sure that you figure that out for yourself in terms of what works best for you will obviously be really important. And then I suppose that brings us full circle to, should you do intermittent fasting? Like, I suppose that is the question you've been wanting to know from the beginning. And naturally, I had to take you on a little journey before we got here. So should you? And the reason is that the answer is, it'd be helpful if I could speak. The answer is, you guessed it, it depends. Intermittent fasting, like most other things like that, is just a tool. It's a tool you can pull out if and when you need to. And if your lifestyle not demands it, because I think often we can adapt our lifestyle, even if it takes a little bit of effort. But sometimes it just works for your lifestyle. I have clients who are parents of young children, like women who are mums who are prepping their kids to go to school first thing in the morning. They're rushing around cooking the kids breakfasts, making sure their rucksacks have got whatever little schoolwork they need, making sure they have brushed their teeth and brushed their hair and had a shower and this, that, and it's just carnage and chaos first thing in the morning. Maybe you don't need to add the stress of eating yourself. If you can get the kids to school and then go to the office and have your breakfast in the office in the calm, serene environment that is the office compared to the absolute carnage you just left, maybe that is something to think about. But as I alluded to a couple of times already, it is not a magic pill. I think a lot of people look for the magic pill thinking it's just, if I do this, you'll solve my problems. And sorry to get so deep late in the show, but just remember that there is no magic pill. And if you're looking for one, you need to take stock of your own thinking patterns, your own mindset. And I don't mean that in some like vague idea, like literally stop and ask yourself, why is it that you're trying to cut a corner? Because there is never a corner to be cut. Like it just doesn't work. You cut corners at work, you get find out. You cut corners at home, you get find out. Like, none of this ever works. So why would here be any different? I'll leave you guys with that. A little bit of food for thought. And as always, if you thought this was interesting, you liked it, please share with your friends. Rate the show 5 stars, whether it's here or Spotify or iTunes. And yeah, I'll be catching you guys next time.